Eleanor Winston's house, standing in the suburbs of Green Hills, Maine, gently received the spring sunlight. Eleanor stood by the window, watching with a smile as a young girl watered the rose bushes. "Emily, be careful not to water them too much," she called. Her 7-year-old granddaughter turned at her grandmother's voice and responded with a beaming smile. "It's okay, Grandma. The roses are thirsty." Eleanor had worked as a research director at Greenwell Pharmaceuticals for 25 years, and even after retirement, she still went to the office about 2 days a week as an advisor. Her expertise was highly valued, and it had provided her with financial comfort and independence. She went outside and sat down next to Emily. "So, what shall we play today?" "I want to do science experiments. I want to make water-soluble soap like last time," Emily replied, her eyes sparkling. Eleanor looked forward to weekends with her granddaughter more than anything. Whether teaching her how to cook, gardening together, or occasionally doing simple science experiments, their time was always filled with discovery and laughter. "That sounds lovely. But before that, there's a message from your mom," Eleanor said, taking out her smartphone. On the screen was a message from her daughter Caroline. "Mom, is it okay if I pick up Emily at 6 p.m.? Jason and I have an important meeting." Eleanor let out a small sigh. As a manager at a marketing company, Caroline was always busy and often relied on Eleanor to take care of Emily. Jason Bradley, whom she had remarried 3 years ago, was similarly busy, though Eleanor couldn't quite figure out what he actually did. "Is Mom going to be late again?" Emily's voice held a touch of loneliness. "It seems so. But that's because she has important work to do." Eleanor gently stroked her granddaughter's hair. "Tonight, I'll bake you special chocolate chip cookies." Emily's face brightened. Eleanor loved her granddaughter's smile more than anything. Caroline's first marriage had ended briefly, with the divorce finalized when Emily was just 2 years old. Emily's biological father had since moved abroad and rarely kept in touch. Eleanor cherished her bond with her granddaughter as if to make up for this. The phone rang, and Eleanor answered a call from Caroline. "Mom, I have something important to tell you." Caroline's voice had an unusual excitement to it. "Next week, we want to celebrate your 60th birthday in grand style. Jason is planning a wonderful dinner." Eleanor frowned. She preferred quiet time with family over elaborate celebrations. "Caroline, there's no need for anything so extravagant. A simple meal would be fine." "No way, Mom. This is a very special day." Caroline's voice was passionate. "I want to express my gratitude to you. For everything." From the other end of the phone, she could hear Jason's voice. "Eleanor, don't worry. I've arranged for the best chef. We'll even have your favorite seafood risotto specially prepared." Eleanor felt a discomfort in her stomach. Jason's excessive kindness always made her uneasy. However, she couldn't resist her daughter's enthusiasm. "All right, Caroline. I'll look forward to it." After hanging up, Eleanor glanced toward Emily, who was sitting on the lawn. Her granddaughter seemed to be deep in thought. "Emily, what's wrong?" "Nothing," Emily answered with a suddenly bright voice. "I'm looking forward to your birthday." There was an odd inflection in her words, and Eleanor tilted her head slightly. However, she dismissed it as just a child's whimsical change of mood. "Well, shall we start our promised science experiment?" Eleanor stood up and extended her hand to her granddaughter. The rest of the day went by pleasantly. The soap-making experiment was a great success, and Emily proudly held the lavender-scented soap she had made, declaring it a present for Mom. At dusk, when Caroline came to pick her up, Emily reluctantly packed her things. As they said goodbye, she hugged Eleanor more tightly than usual. "See you next week, Grandma." Her voice seemed to carry something urgent. As Eleanor watched her granddaughter leave, she began thinking about preparations for next week's birthday party. On the morning of her birthday, Eleanor woke up with a peaceful feeling. Though she had wanted to spend a quiet day, the thought of the elaborate party Caroline had planned made her feel a bit heavy-hearted. Nevertheless, she resolved to respect her daughter's feelings and changed into an elegant navy blue dress. At 5 in the evening, Eleanor arrived at Caroline and Jason's house. The two-story house in an upscale residential area was decorated more lavishly than usual. The front door was adorned with glittering ribbons, and a sign reading, "Happy 60th Birthday, Eleanor," was displayed. "Mom, thank you for coming." Caroline greeted her mother at the door and kissed her on the cheek. "Today is a special day." Entering the house, the living room was decorated with balloons and flowers. On the table was an array of fine wines and Eleanor's favorite cheese platter. Jason stood by the fireplace and approached with a smile when he saw Eleanor. "Eleanor, happy birthday," he said, embracing her somewhat exaggeratedly. "Today is a special day for you. I've opened a special wine." He took an expensive-looking wine bottle from the table and poured it into a glass. "This is a 2005 Chateau Margaux. The finest wine for the finest day." Eleanor accepted the glass and said, "Thank you, Jason. But there was no need to open something so expensive." "Nonsense, no need to hold back. Today is a special day," Jason emphasized, raising his glass again. "Cheers. To Eleanor's health and longevity." The three clinked glasses, and Eleanor took a sip of the wine. It certainly had a wonderful taste, but somehow she felt uncomfortable with Jason's excessive attentiveness. His eyes were smiling, but she sensed something cold and calculating behind them. "Where's Emily?" Eleanor asked, looking around the room. "She's changing upstairs." "She should be down soon," Caroline answered. "Mom, sit down. I still have some food preparations to make, and Jason will keep you company." As Caroline headed for the kitchen, Jason sat next to Eleanor and poured more wine into her glass. "So, how are you enjoying retirement?" "I'm quite satisfied. I go to the company just 2 days a week and enjoy my own time the rest of the week." "Wonderful. I'd love to hear your advice on asset management sometime," Jason said with a meaningful smile. "Caroline tells me you're a wise investor." Eleanor returned the smile but changed the subject. "How is Emily doing at school? All I hear from her lately is about science experiments." "Ah, she's a smart girl. Maybe she takes after you," Jason said, trying to pour more wine into Eleanor's glass. Eleanor declined with a wave of her hand. "This is enough. We haven't even started dinner yet." "Relax, Eleanor. Tonight is a special night." Jason's voice had a touch of irritation in it. Just then, the sound of small footsteps coming down the stairs was heard. It was Emily. She was wearing a light blue dress with small flower decorations in her hair. However, her expression was dark, and her eyes were slightly red and swollen. "Emily, say hello to your grandmother," Jason called out, and Emily slowly approached Eleanor. "Happy birthday, Grandma." Her voice was small and lacked her usual energy. Eleanor, concerned, placed a hand on Emily's forehead. "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" "I'm fine, Grandma," Emily answered with a forced smile. "Just a little tired." Eleanor gazed into her granddaughter's eyes, but Emily quickly looked away. Something was wrong. Emily was usually talkative and lively in front of her grandmother, but today she seemed like a different person. "Emily, can you help your uncle?" Jason called, and Emily reluctantly moved toward him. As the two went to a corner of the living room, Jason was whispering something to her. Emily just nodded, her shoulders appearing tense and rigid. Caroline returned from the kitchen. "Mom, let's move to the dining room. The food will be served soon." As Eleanor stood up, Caroline took her mother's arm. "Mom, today is truly a special day. A day to express my gratitude to you." While touched by her daughter's words, Eleanor still felt something unnatural. She looked at Emily, but the girl remained seated at the edge of the sofa, staring intently at her grandmother. There was clear fear in her eyes. Entering the dining room, Eleanor was surprised to see the lavish food displayed on the table. The table was filled with all her favorites. Roast beef, a green salad, and especially eye-catching was the special seafood risotto placed in the center. "This is all my favorites," Eleanor couldn't hide her surprise. "Of course, Mom. Today is your day," Caroline said happily. Jason approached and stood in front of the special risotto. "This seafood risotto is special. Eleanor, I had it specially prepared by the chef for you." "I see, thank you," Eleanor stammered. Somehow, a sense of unease spread through her chest. Jason continued as he poured wine, "This is tonight's main dish. Caroline told me it's your favorite." Emily slowly approached the dining table. She sat next to Eleanor and whispered, "Grandma." At that moment, Caroline clinked her glass to get everyone's attention. "Everyone, I'd like to begin my speech to Mom." Caroline looked at Eleanor with tear-filled eyes. "Mother, you gave me life. And you've always supported me. Today is a special day to express that gratitude." Eleanor's eyes also welled up with emotion. Having her daughter express sincere gratitude was the best gift to her. Yet, even within this happy feeling, something felt wrong. Emily's behavior, Jason's excessive kindness, and the subtle tension hanging in the air. "Well, let's start before the food gets cold," Jason said. "Especially this risotto, I had it made specially for Eleanor, so I want her to eat it while it's hot." As Eleanor took her seat, Emily gently tugged at her grandmother's sleeve. When Eleanor turned to her granddaughter, Emily started to say something but fell silent when she noticed Jason's sharp gaze. "Let's make a toast." Jason stood up and raised his wine glass high. "To Eleanor's 60 years of life and to her happy days ahead." Everyone raised their glasses, and the clear sound of crystal glasses touching resonated through the room. Tears glistened in Caroline's eyes. "Mom, thank you. For giving birth to me, for raising me, and for still supporting us." Her voice trembled with emotion. Eleanor felt her heart fill up. No matter how complex their relationship, the bond between mother and daughter was special. She responded with a smile, saying, "Thank you, Caroline." Jason spoke up again. "Now, let's start with the seafood risotto. I had it specially prepared for Eleanor." He acted like a waiter with white gloves, serving risotto from a large silver dish onto a special porcelain plate in front of Eleanor. "This is a special serving for you, Eleanor." Eleanor looked down at the dish. It certainly looked beautiful, with shrimp and scallops lavishly scattered about, and the aroma of saffron rising. However, she felt an unease spreading in the pit of her stomach. "Thank you, Jason. It looks delicious," Eleanor said politely. Jason smiled with satisfaction and began serving risotto onto the other plates. "Of course, I've prepared the same for everyone. But Eleanor's is made with a special recipe." At those words, Eleanor didn't miss seeing Emily's body tremble slightly. Her granddaughter stared at her plate, not reaching for her fork. Meanwhile, Caroline was expressing gratitude for her husband's thoughtfulness. "Jason, thank you for planning such a wonderful party. It's amazing how much effort you put into making Mom happy." Eleanor picked up her fork and was about to scoop some risotto when something touched her leg under the table. It was Emily. The girl had crawled under the tablecloth, approaching Eleanor without anyone noticing. Eleanor concealed her surprise and pretended to drop her napkin as she bent down. "Oh, I dropped my napkin." Under the table, Emily slipped a small piece of paper into her grandmother's hand. In that moment, the girl's eyes were a mix of fear and determination. Eleanor took the paper and quickly tucked it into her dress pocket. "Are you okay?" Caroline asked. Yes, I just dropped my napkin. Eleanor returned to her chair, maintaining her composure. Jason called out, "Come on, Eleanor, taste the special risotto while it's hot." Emily had already returned to her seat, but her eyes never left her grandmother. Her expression conveyed an urgent message. Eleanor casually put her hand in her pocket to check the note's contents. It was written in a child's handwriting with just one phrase, "Run away." Now. Her heart began to beat rapidly. What could it mean for Emily to pass such a message? A joke? Or was there real danger? Looking at Emily's serious expression, Eleanor intuitively knew this was not just a child's prank. "Come on, Eleanor, try a bite," Jason's voice interrupted her thoughts. His eyes were watching her movements closely. Eleanor held her fork and scooped some risotto. However, before bringing it to her mouth, she looked at Emily once more. The girl subtly but clearly shook her head. A sudden realization struck Eleanor. Jason's excessive kindness, the specially prepared dish, and Emily's fear. Everything connected. "Oh," Eleanor put down her fork. "I feel a bit short of breath." Caroline looked up with concern. "Mom, are you okay?" "Yes, I just need a little break." Eleanor slowly stood up. "I'll go to the restroom. I'll be right back." A momentary irritation crossed Jason's face. "But the food will get cold. The special risotto." "Don't worry. I'll be right back," Eleanor said in a calm voice. As she was about to leave the room, Caroline stood up. "Mom, I'll come with you." "It's fine, Caroline. I can manage on my own." Eleanor smiled, but her eyes were serious. "You stay seated. It's a party, after all." Caroline hesitated but returned to her seat. After leaving the room, Eleanor headed not for the bathroom but the kitchen. There must be some clues. If Emily's message was real, she might be in danger. Entering the kitchen, Eleanor quickly looked around. Utensils and ingredients used for food preparation were scattered on the counter. Among them, her eyes caught Jason's jacket placed beside the sink. Eleanor carefully searched the pockets. There was a small medicine bottle. The label read gastrointestinal medicine, but to Eleanor's experienced eyes, it was clearly not ordinary medication. Having served as a research director at a pharmaceutical company for many years, she had the ability to sense a drug's dangers. Searching further in the pockets, she found folded documents. Opening them, they were copies of her life insurance policy. There was what appeared to be a forged signature changing the beneficiary from Caroline to Jason. Eleanor's blood ran cold. From another pocket, she found Jason's smartphone. It was locked, but notifications were visible. Reminder, drug effects after 6 hours. Looks like natural death. All the pieces came together in Eleanor's mind. Jason was trying to kill her. And his plan seemed perfect. The specially prepared risotto, the special wine, and above all, the excessive attention to Eleanor. It was all part of a plan to get her life insurance money. Suddenly, the kitchen door opened. Eleanor quickly returned the smartphone to the pocket and turned around. Jason was standing there. "What are you doing?" His voice clearly contained anger. Eleanor maintained her composure and answered, "I was feeling a bit unwell and looking for some medicine." Suspicion crossed Jason's face. Why the kitchen, not the bathroom? Caroline once mentioned she kept headache medicine in the kitchen drawer. Eleanor feigned calmness. "I see." Jason slowly approached. "Don't worry. Everything you need tonight has been prepared." Those words carried an ominous double meaning. His eyes were cold and calculating. "Thank you," Eleanor smiled, but in her mind, she was devising an escape plan. "Everyone's waiting. Let's go back." Jason grabbed her arm and held it tightly. "Eleanor, you're our special guest. I want you to enjoy the special meal tonight. Though feeling the pain in her arm, Eleanor didn't lose her smile. Of course, Jason. But before that, I need some fresh air. May I go outside? Jason's eyes narrowed. All right. But I can't wait long. This party was prepared by Caroline with so much care. Eleanor slowly freed herself from Jason's hand and headed for the kitchen door. In her mind, she was rapidly forming a plan of action. Emily had saved her life. Walking down the hallway, Eleanor steeled her resolve. She would not return to the dining room. Instead, she planned to go to the bathroom and contact the police. However, before that, she needed to ensure Emily's safety. It pained her heart to think that her little granddaughter was feeling fear amidst this terrible plan. Eleanor looked back, confirming Jason was still in the kitchen. Then she quickly headed for the bathroom. Closing the bathroom door and locking it, Eleanor took out the smartphone from her pocket. Her hands were shaking, but she took a deep breath to regain her composure. Dialing 911, an operator responded immediately. My name is Eleanor Winston. My daughter's husband is trying to poison me, Eleanor conveyed in a low but clear voice. 215 Oakwood Drive, Green Hills, Maine. We'll dispatch police immediately. Please stay where you are. My granddaughter might be in danger too. I have evidence. Eleanor took photos of the notes found on Jason's smartphone and the medicine bottle and sent them. After ending the call, Eleanor put her ear to the door. The hallway was quiet. She opened the door slightly and peeked out. There was no sign of Jason, and she could hear voices from the dining room. Eleanor left the bathroom and decided to look for Emily. Where could her granddaughter be? It was too dangerous to return to the dining room. Eleanor headed for the stairs through the living room. As she was about to climb the stairs, she heard small footsteps. Turning around, Emily stood there. The girl's face was wet with tears. Grandma! Emily whispered loudly and ran to Eleanor. Eleanor embraced her granddaughter and hid behind the stairs. It's okay, Emily. I saw your note. I've contacted the police. Emily sobbed and said, Uncle Jason is planning something bad. I overheard him. What did you hear? Eleanor gently asked. Uncle was talking on the phone. He said, tonight is the last chance. Then I saw him put some strange powder in your food, Emily said in a trembling voice. I was scared, but I wanted to protect you. Eleanor hugged her granddaughter tightly. You saved my life, Emily. You're such a brave girl. Eleanor. Emily. Where are you? Caroline's voice came from the living room. Eleanor grabbed Emily's shoulders and said with a serious expression, Emily, go outside and wait for the police. I need to tell Mom the truth. Emily was scared but nodded. Be careful, Grandma. The girl left through the back door, and Eleanor headed for the living room. Caroline was standing there alone. Mom, what's going on? Jason is acting strangely and looking all over for you. Eleanor looked directly into her daughter's eyes. Caroline, sit down. We need to talk. As they sat on the sofa, Eleanor quietly said, Jason is trying to kill me. The color drained from Caroline's face. What are you saying? That's absurd. I found a copy of my life insurance policy in his jacket. The beneficiary has been changed to him. Eleanor showed the photos she had taken on the smartphone. Also, he put something in my food. Emily saw it. Caroline was stunned. I can't believe it. There was a note on his smartphone. It said, drug effects after 6 hours. Looks like natural death. Tears welled up in Caroline's eyes. Mom, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. At that moment, Jason's voice was heard from the dining room. Caroline, did you find Eleanor? When he entered the living room, the air froze. Jason saw Eleanor and Caroline and showed a moment of confusion. However, he quickly composed himself and put on a smile. "Ah, there you are." Everyone was worried. "The risotto is getting cold." Eleanor calmly replied, "Jason, I know. I've contacted the police." Jason's expression changed dramatically. "What are you talking about?" "That you're trying to kill me. And I've sent the evidence to the police." Jason suddenly ran for the door. However, at that very moment, the sound of sirens approached. He stopped and looked out the window. Police car lights were visible. "It's a lie," he muttered. "That child. Emily saved my life," Eleanor said. Caroline stood up and shouted at Jason, "Why? Why would you do this?" A cold smile appeared on Jason's face. "Why?" "Money, Caroline. Your mother's insurance is a substantial amount. And after her death, you would inherit her assets. Then, we could." We. Caroline's voice trembled with anger. "You tried to kill my mother." A loud knock sounded at the front door, and a police officer's voice was heard. "Police! Open the door." Caroline glared at Jason as she walked toward the door. Eleanor also stood up and followed her. Jason tried to escape through the window, but police officers were also waiting in the yard. He finally dropped his shoulders and stood still in resignation. As the police entered the living room, Emily appeared with them. The girl ran to her grandmother and hugged her tightly. "Grandma, are you okay?" Eleanor, feeling tears on her cheeks, stroked Emily's hair. "Yes, thanks to you. You saved me." Caroline joined them, and the three embraced tightly. 6 months later, in the fall, colorful autumn leaves swayed in the wind in Eleanor's backyard. Eleanor sat on the porch, drinking warm coffee and watching Emily play on the lawn. The investigation after the incident revealed Jason Bradley's surprising past. He had been suspected of a similar incident in another state but was not indicted due to insufficient evidence. The drug found in Eleanor's house was a powerful cardiac poison obtained from a former colleague, difficult to detect and likely to be judged as natural death. The trial was brief, and Jason was sentenced to a long prison term. The day Caroline went to visit him, he coldly declared, "It was only for the money. You and that child were ultimately in the way." Those words completely broke Caroline's heart. For the past few months, Caroline and Emily had moved into Eleanor's house. Caroline had completed divorce proceedings and started a new job at a local publishing company. It took her time to recover from her husband's betrayal and the fear of her mother almost being killed, but gradually, her smile was returning. Emily visited a psychological counselor once a week. In her counseling sessions, she talked about her fear when she noticed her stepfather's actions and her anxiety afterward. "I saw Uncle Jason put strange powder in the food when he was practicing making the special dish in the kitchen. After that, I got scared when I heard him say, 'Tonight is the last chance,' on the phone," she had confessed. However, the counselor was amazed at her resilience. "I'm really happy I could protect Grandma," she would say proudly. "What are you thinking about?" Caroline's voice brought Eleanor back to reality. Her daughter came up to the porch and sat next to her mother. "Just thinking about how lucky we were," Eleanor smiled. "Thanks to Emily." Caroline let out a deep sigh. "She really is a special child. Mom, when I think about how I almost lost both of you." Her voice trembled. Eleanor took her daughter's hand. "We can't change the past. But from now on, let's create new memories together." A year later, Eleanor's birthday came around again. This time, the celebration was a quiet one with just the three of them in Eleanor's living room. A homemade cake, candles, and heartfelt presents made for a simple party. Yet, It was many times warmer and filled with genuine happiness compared to last year's lavish dinner. "Grandma, this is for you," Emily handed a small envelope. When Eleanor opened it, inside was a handmade card. "I love you, Grandma. Let's always be together," was written in childlike letters. Eleanor hugged her granddaughter and whispered, "We are a true family bound not just by blood, but by truth and trust." Caroline joined them, and the three embraced tightly. Far away in prison, Jason Bradley spent his days in solitude. No visitors, just days of regretting his actions. The true richness was the bond of trust and love that Eleanor, Caroline, and Emily had built, far more valuable than the financial wealth he had sought. As Eleanor blew out the candles on the cake, she silently vowed to continue cherishing and protecting this family, this bond. After all, the new chapter that began with the worst birthday of her life had taught her about the most important things in an unexpected way.